Isn't it fascinating how the showdown with Iran is happening in the time period of Purim? At the end of the Megillah says, towards the end of the Megillah, these days are remembered and are done. Halachically, what this teaches us is that this teaches us how we have to remember the story of Purim, and therefore we read the Megillah. We read the story at night and by day. So we have to hear it twice, on Monday night and Tuesday this year. We hear the story of Purim. And it's done. How is it done? Through the mitzvot associated with Purim. Besides reading the Megillah, it's also the gifts to a friend, 2 items of food to a friend, charity to 2 poor people, and the Purim meal. And it's done where? Everywhere. Every city, every family, every community, every country. So there were times in Jewish history that certain communities had a remarkable, memorable experience, a miracle, a Purim miracle, and they made their own Purim of this city, a Purim of that city, and they commemorated it through every year. But of course, this wasn't commemorated throughout the Jewish world. It is a holiday of Purim necessarily that is not only kept in Shushan, but everywhere that the Jewish people were. Now, what is interesting is that the terminology is Niskarim and Asim, remembered and done, is present tense. In the next, the end of the verse, the Megillah says that these days of Purim, La Yavru Metecha Yehudim, V'zichram L'yasad Mizara. It's talking future tense, that will never leave the Jewish people. It will never conclude. It will never be concluded. So the question is, why does it begin in present and conclude in future? If you want to say that the Purim is something that will never, always will be kept, so it should be in future tense. What's the present tense? So the Maharal of Prague explains it like this. He says that it's not just that Purim happened, what is it now, about 2,500 years ago. The energy of Purim, the powerful energy of Purim, doesn't stop then, and now we're just remembering something that happened in the past. When we remember a holiday, it's because the same energy that was there the first time around is there now as well. This comes to clarify a number of things. For example, the Talmud tells us, with regards to Hanukkah, after the miracle of Hanukkah, they waited 12 months, and at 12 months later, they established that Hanukkah should be a holiday from then on. Why did they wait a year? Because our sages wanted to sense and to see if the energy, if the positivity of Hanukkah the first time is continuing the next year. When the next year had the same energy, that's when they established that this should be a holiday forevermore. Purim didn't need that. They figured out right away that this is a holiday it's going to be forever. But let me share with you a miracle that is not commemorated in the same way. The miracle of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, Chizkiyahu the king, who Sancherib, king of Assyria, was literally an emperor over the entire civilized world at the time, and he came with an army of 180,000 over small little Jerusalem, and he thought that they will be victorious in the most easy way possible. Overnight, I think about 100,000 of those soldiers died in a plague, and the rest just ran away. And it was an incredible miracle. As a matter of fact, Talmud says Hashem was going to make Chizkiyahu Mashiach, but he didn't, because he didn't sing a song of praise to Hashem for that great miracle. But it was a miracle for then. It was a miracle Hashem did then. It doesn't have an effect, and it's not a miracle that we commemorate every year. We do mention it on Pesach, because it actually happened on Pesach. We mention it through the fact that we read the Haftorah on Pesach, but it's not commemorated like Hanukkah or Purim. The reason Hanukkah and Purim are commemorated the way they are is not because of a great miracle that once happened. It's because the energy of those days are present today, and so that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that the victory of the Jewish people over the Persians, the Iranians, Haman of his time, did not just happened then, it's happening at present now. And we will see a great victory, I am sure, with Hashem's help in this period of time, when the energy of this time tells us that we can be incredibly successful. And indeed, every Jew should have the miracles of Purim in their life. And I'm sure that indeed is going to be the case. I'll share with you, in 1953, there was the Rebbe had a Farbrengen, a gathering on Purim. And he was talking a number of talks, and deep into the night, the Rebbe then stops and gets serious, and then tells a story that when the Tsar fell, and now there was elections in Russia, the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, who was Rebbe at the time, told the Chassidim that they need to perform their civic duty and go and vote. One Chassid, who was not from, he was totally engrossed in Torah and divine. He didn't know politics. He knew nothing of that. Only he knew Torah. He knew prayer. That's what he knew. He knew mitzvahs. That's what he knew. But if the Rebbe said go vote, so not only do you go vote, you prepare yourself for it. He goes to the mikveh. He puts on a gartel, and he's now going to the voting booth. He votes, and as he comes out of the vote, he sees people standing, cheering. In Russia, there's a cheer, hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. So he sees all these people screaming hoorah. He thinks that it's like in Hebrew. Hoorah means he is evil, he is evil. So he's screaming with all his might, hoorah, he is evil. And the Rebbe then pauses. And the community somehow understood that that's what the Rebbe wanted them to sing. And they all started screaming, hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. And later they find out that Stalin got sick, but actually Stalin, the dictator, the monster, was actually died that night. That's when Stalin died. The screaming of Chassidim in the shul, hoorah, caused the death of this incredible, terrible monster who was Stalin. And at that time, he was cooking up a terrible plot. It was called the Doctor's Fear, the Doctor's plot, or they were going to have a show trial against Jewish doctors. It was called a doctor, but it was really Jews who were doctors. And that was, many say that was going to be an excuse for him to kick out most Jews from most of Russia and to send them to Azerbaijan, a godforsaken place that the Jews would have been exiled to from all of Russia because of this doctor's plot. In the midst of it, he died on that Purim. So we see that the energy of Purim is not just something that happened 2,500 years ago. It continues, and hopefully we will see an incredible victory against the enemies of the Jewish people, against the enemies of Israel, which is the Jewish people. And we'll be able to celebrate, hopefully we're able to celebrate even on Purim, this great victory.